Okay, Chris, welcome to Nova Scribes. It's nice to have you. So, for those of you joining us, Chris currently serves as the Chief Operating Officer for Interaction Associates, also known as IA. He has trained hundreds of leaders to design and run more effective meetings and bring out the best in others through human-focused collaboration and facilitation skills. Some organizations he has supported include Amazon Robotics, the CDC, and Wellington Management. And just a little bit about IA. They were founded in 1969 by architects David Strauss and Michael Doyle. And they're a pioneer in group process facilitation and early collaboration with pioneers in information management like Jeff Ball and graphic facilitation like David Sibbett in the Grove. So those of you that know David Sibbett in the Grove, he actually had an office across the hall from David Strauss when David Sibbett was working at Coro. And that he got a lot of the practice of graphic facilitation from David Strauss. In fact, I would say that from the book How to Make Meetings Work, written by Doyle and Strauss, that's really where you see the modern definition of the word facilitation, not to mention recorder. IA is focused on helping people lead, meet, and work better together. Speaking of that, Chris, what are we working on today?
Fantastic, Brian. Thank you for the introduction. Super, super nice to invite me, and thrilled to be here with everyone today. So today we're going to be going back to basics. It's really important when we think about facilitation to kind of get our core bearings down. And so we're going to be focusing on beginning with the end in mind. How do we begin with the end in mind to then work backwards from a design perspective? And so this is around getting really clear on our outcomes. Outcomes are critical for understanding what we want to do as leaders, facilitators to really understand impact. We want to start about outcomes. So I'm going to be giving you a very, very quick crash course in some really powerful concepts. If you're interested in these concepts, we do a lot more in-depth training on this. I cannot possibly cover this in 45 minutes to the depth that we typically do, but I'm going to try my best to give you kind of a broad base and a really fun experience. This is meant to be interactive as well, so I definitely want some interactivity along the way. I'm going to be asking you to participate in chat. There's three things we're going to be covered today. Number one, we're going to talk about and reflect on the common problems that people experience with meetings. What are the most common problems that we face, not only as leaders, but facilitators in meetings? We're going to, number two, share how we write powerful desired outcome statements. This is a critical competence that I will say that if you can master this concept, it will revolutionize your meetings in general. It's really that powerful. I've seen it work in so many different ways. And then number three, we're going to have an opportunity to consider the group dynamics. How do we think about the group dynamics as leaders and facilitators, even into the technology and the process, because we know that's super critical to making collaboration really work. The process is really what it comes down to. So we're going to be talking about those things in a really fun way. All right. So to get us started, I want to do a quick interactivity here. So when you think about problems with meetings, this is your opportunity in chat. What are some problems that you typically experience or face? Just drop those things in chat. Common problems, maybe problems that you've experienced, maybe problems that you've heard of others. But when you think about meetings, when people think about all the problem issues, what are those things? All right, I see grandstanding. Candace, thank you. Ego. Let's try to generate a big list here. Okay, no decision, sleepy people. Yeah, is it a conversation or one-way lecture? Absolutely. People aren't clear on what we're doing here. Yeah, vague instructions. Super. Feeling safe. Yeah, Karen, that's really important. Feeling safe. All right. Now, I say that because I'm about to reveal what a lot of what Strauss would say in our original research from the 70s, right? It still holds true today. It's still true. If you were to go through all of these items, you can do this with any group in the world. It works in any country, works in any context. What the research would show is that ultimately 90% of the problems that we face as leaders and facilitators, they're process problems. It's not about the content usually. It's almost always about the process, meaning that people haven't thought about the process, or there's not a clear process, right? They don't understand, right? We don't have the right stakeholders in the room. That's a process problem. It's not a content problem. So if we want to be better leaders, we want to be more powerful facilitators, we got to start with the process. That's ultimately where the key is. And so we got to think about the impact here because people might think, oh, wow, meetings, we can't really improve meetings. That's not true. There's lots of things you can do at a critical level to dramatically improve your meetings. But I want to think about the impact, not only of a poor meeting, but of an excellent meeting as well. So imagine you're on a team and in your organization, maybe there's 5 managers in your team. Okay, so imagine those 5 managers. A lot of research shows that on average, each manager is holding about 20 meetings a week, usually with about 3 people. Okay, and you have 5 of those people. And then you can just kind of see the impact here, right? You've got 300 hours in a given week just with those 5 managers that are each meeting with 3 people 20 times each. And you think about what's the average salary that someone's getting paid in a given year, maybe it's $100,000. And you were to break it down, if you were to break it down, does anybody have a guess of how much these 300 hours would cost? Keep in mind, this is only just 5 managers in their groups. How much would this cost an organization? Anyone know? Let's put a guess in chat. Go ahead and put some guesses. How much money is this worth to an organization? All these people. Drop a number in chat. How much do you think these 300 hours are worth an organization? Yeah, a 5 gazillion. Dawn says $100, right? A lot of different, or 100,000 maybe Dawn there, right? On average, it's about $15,000 to $20,000, right? You can, but between, if you can take an average salary and benefits and all these things and add it out, keep in mind, this is just for 5 managers. So I'm emphasizing this because I'm saying if we can improve the efficiency and effectiveness of our meetings by even 20% or 25%, think about the scale that that rolls through an organization. So that's what we really want to try to focus about today is that greater impact. It's not just thinking about ourselves, but it's thinking about it more of a system wide. Okay, that's what we're really getting at. So what's the solution? What do we do here? How do we break through this perennial issue that everyone deals with? Well, there's a couple of things you can do. The first thing you can do is you can put on the process glasses. So just like I'm wearing a pair of eyeglasses here, Strauss would say, put on your process glasses, starts to see things through a process lens, right? When the group dynamics aren't working, you should be able to see, ultimately with enough training, you can actually see what's happening and understand what's happening from a process perspective, because then as a facilitator, you can make an actual move. You can do something in action to change the process or change the dynamics in the room. Okay, so that's what it's about. Plus, to begin with the end in mind. Okay, so that's what we're going to start at is the process and beginning with the end in mind. So most agendas, if you think about most agendas you get, they probably look like something like this, right? You've got a laundry list of items, right? These might look familiar, like check-in is very common, discussing things, action items, brainstorming. It's just a laundry list of things, right? The big question is, well, what is the process here? And ultimately, what's the outcome? None of these things that we have written here are actually outcomes. It's just topics. Now, there's nothing wrong with topics, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about something much more powerful than just a topic. So ultimately, the big idea here is learning to write desired outcome statements will transform your meetings. It's that powerful. So you can think of a desired outcome as a target. It's a target that we're aiming to hit at the end of the meeting. By the end of our strategic meeting, what will we leave the meeting with? It's that tangible item. Okay, so I do a lot of training with a lot of technical people like engineers and scientists. And so the best way I use to describe this is 1 plus 2 equals 3. A desired outcome is the 3. It's the outcome. Okay, now I'm going to explain more of this. It's not about what we put in. It's not our input. It's what we leave the meeting with. Okay, so it's our target. And so it's almost like taking an arrow and getting at the target. We want to hone in on what the target is going to be. So how do we do these things and what does this actually look like? Well, the first thing to know is that a desired outcome is a concise written statement about what we will walk away with. It actually answers that question. What will we leave the meeting with? What will we leave the meeting with? Okay, we will always want to be asking our question. What are we going to get? What are we going to get out at the end of the meeting? What are we going to walk away with? Okay. So here's some examples of some desired outcomes here. By the way, when I always train people, I always like to use this prefix by the end of our meeting, by the end of our strategic meeting, by the end of our summit, by the end of our retreat. You can put whatever in there. We will have dot, dot, dot. The reason I do this is because each of these things you'll notice an agreement, an awareness, a list. These are tangible things. It is a fail-proof way to prevent the trap that people fall into, which is we're going to discuss the budget or we're going to check in. Like those are process things. We're not talking about process things. We're talking about outcomes. Outcomes are tangible things. Okay. So how do we actually write a desired outcome statement? I'm going to teach you very quickly how to write a statement, what are the criteria, and then you're going to be moved to a breakout room with a partner where you're going to think about a real strategic meeting, maybe a meeting you're facilitating or designing in the next month or two. I'm going to have you work with a partner to generate some desired outcome statements in a breakout room, do real work. And then when we come back from the breakout, I'm going to ask for a volunteer. We're going to do some live fishbowl coaching. So that's how that's going to work in a moment. So you definitely want to pay attention to this section because this is where we're going to kind of get into the nuts and bolts of actually how do we do these things. So what is the desired outcome? There's two types of outcomes. The first is product and the second is knowledge. You can think about those as two different categories. Okay. Product is something tangible. It's a list, a plan, an agreement, a decision. Is very, very specific. It's almost like you can touch it and feel it and say, yes, this is something. It's real. Okay. The second type of desired outcome is knowledge. Knowledge is something like an awareness of something or an understanding of something, ultimately, so you can do something with it. Now, a lot of meetings are awareness-based meetings. A lot of times people are communicating cross-functionally, or they need to build some sort of understanding of something, ultimately to do something with it. So the so that is giving you the why. Why do we need this? If we don't have the so that, it doesn't really matter, right? Information is just information. So we want to give people context, okay? So those are the two types of outcomes. Now there's 4 criteria that are kind of like a formula to help you write these things. And you can use these as a litmus test as you go along the way, okay? So number 1, they're brief written statements. Brief meaning that it's like a sentence. It's not a paragraph. It's not a term paper. It's brief and written statements. They're specific and measurable. They're written from the perspective of the attendee. And ultimately, most importantly, they're nouns, not verbs. A lot of people fall into the trap when they're learning this. They go into the verb because they're so used to discuss, or talk about. It's like we want to break that habit. We want to break that habit. Okay, so ultimately, these are the 4 criteria that we use for desired outcomes. All right. Now, let's go back real quick to our example that I gave before. Notice the desired outcomes here. I'm going to break this down. An agreement, right? That's the noun. So this first one is actually a product, okay? And notice it's specific. It's saying 10%, reduce our marketing budget by 10%. So the power of this is if you received a calendar invitation and you saw this desired outcome, it would be extremely helpful for you to understand, because you understand it's the marketing expense. You understand we're going for a 10% reduction. It would be really helpful. It's a lot more powerful than just saying we're going to discuss the budget. Okay. So this next one here is also, you'll notice on awareness. Now, this is the knowledge base. This is that right column, that right side. Okay. And then this third one is a list of items. You can notice that you can dial these up or down. So in this case, item C is just a list. If you wanted to get a little more specific, you could say a prioritized list or a list of our top 2 items right there. So there's a sliding scale on how specific your outcomes need to be. And so as designers, you really want to step back and you want to think about what's actually appropriate for the situation at hand. Sometimes we don't need a prioritized list. Sometimes just meeting number 1 is the list. And then 3 weeks later, when we get back together, we're going to actually prioritize the list, right? So we really want to think about what's actually feasible. All right. Now, before we get into a breakout room, I want to make sure that I check for understanding, make sure there's no questions on these concepts. So let me go back to the prior one and just see. Does anybody have any questions for clarification about desired outcomes? You're unclear. you need further explanation. If you are clear, give me a thumbs up or say I'm clear in chat so I understand. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and I don't see anybody in chat here, so we're going to keep moving on here. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put this concept into action. Now, Interaction Associates has been doing this for a long time, and we know from adult learning perspective, people don't actually learn new things unless they practice them. It's really that critical. So what you're going to do here is we're going to practice what we preach. We're going to put you in a breakout room. You're going to be in a breakout room with a partner. And Brian, if we don't have even numbers, we can do trios. You're going to have we're going to do 10 minutes because we're going to do this really fast. So I'm going to give you a document in chat, and in a moment, I'm going to ask you that you download that document. So let me pull that in real quick, Brian, so that we can get that document to people. You want to download this document before, hang on one second, my document's open, so let me close it. You want to download this document before you get in the breakout room, because once you're in the breakout, we cannot send you a document. So that's part of Zoom 101. You want to go ahead and get the document here. And let's see here. There's somebody here in chat, Brian, that says they don't put them in a breakout. So just notice that. Now we only have 10 minutes. So one of you may not have an opportunity to go, right? Try to do 5 minutes each, but if you don't have time, just the person with the most energy, spend time with that person, okay? I want you to open up this document. I want you to think about a real meeting that you have coming up that you're designing or running or leading. It doesn't have to be in your own company. It can be with a client if you're a consultant, okay? But think about something strategic. Don't think about just like a check-in meeting. Think about something that's really somewhat important. 6 weeks, 8 weeks in the future, I want you to write 1 or 2 desired outcome statements. Just type it in the Word document. Use the criteria in the document that we give you, okay? And then share that with a colleague. Share that with your partner. And if you're the partner, you want to use those 4 criteria and give your person some coaching and feedback along the way. Okay, we're going to do this for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, we're going to come back and we're going to ask for a volunteer who'd be willing to share. All right. Any questions for clarification about what we're about to do? If you're unclear or you're not comfortable, raise your hand or say, hey, I don't know what we're doing. Okay, Brian, when you're ready, Eve, unclear. What can I answer for you, Eve?
No, the thing is I came here kind of to learn more than and I don't really trust myself to be able to give very good feedback
Okay.
probably. So I just want to make sure that everyone gets the most out of the experience. So I was wondering if you could just put me in with a trio and I can
Yes,
just, you know,
Brian, we can do that. So we will
do
put
that.
Eve with the
Thank
trio.
you.
Great, great suggestion there. Perfect. All right, so Brian, let's open up the breakout room, 10 minutes. And if you have questions in the breakout, you just raise your virtual hand or send a note to Brian and I will jump in and assist you.
Okay, I think we've got just about everything. Bear with me for just a second. We had a couple of people move suddenly,
No worries.
which
This is
create,
why it's good to have a virtual producer, by the way. If you're ever facilitating or running, Strauss would say, role distribution, don't try to do everything, don't be the heroic leader. Have a
I think
timekeeper, have a scribe, have a
I think we've
recorder.
got it. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the breakouts. All right, here we go.
hands if you've done a fishbowl. Candace, I see hands up there. Okay, anybody else? Fishbowl? Okay, so the concept of a fishbowl is it's a coaching strategy, it's an approach where imagine you have this bowl, all right, and you have a fish inside of it. I'm basically going to come inside the bowl with you, and two of us, me and somebody else, we're going to have a coaching conversation. Everybody else is outside of the fishbowl. You're going to observe, right? So what I'd like to do in the next 10 minutes is have one volunteer, a brave volunteer, who will be willing to share their Word document on their screen of their proposed desired outcomes for me to basically go through that and give them feedback and coaching and ultimately maybe even build out a meeting agenda in 10 minutes. So is there anyone that feels they've got a lot of energy, like, yes, I could use some real quick help on some sort of meeting design that I'm doing in the next 5 or 10 minutes? Who would be willing? If I was in a real training, I would call on somebody. I don't know if I'm going to do that today, but my Latin teacher in high school used to say, this is for fame and fortune. So who would like to volunteer? Dawn, Candace, Nancy, Amanda, Christina, anybody?
I'll volunteer.
Yay,
Okay, Dawn,
Dawn.
excellent. Let's give Dawn a kudos. Brian, can we do some confetti or something?
Yeah, I
All
think we
right,
can get something like that.
Dawn, I'm going to stop sharing screen. And what I'd like for you to do is go ahead and share your screen.
Okay.
And we're going to take a look at what Dawn has written. Now, these are desired outcomes. We're gonna start really at the desired outcome level. I always recommend people start at desired outcomes. Don't start building an agenda until you have your desired outcome.
I make sure I'm sharing the right screen. Okay. Yeah. All right. Can you see it?
Yep, I can see it. All right, so Dawn, I'm working with you. I'm looking down halfway your page, and it says desired outcomes. By the end of the meeting, we will have. All right, and you've got one item there, clarity on your open items and next steps with each.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that's pretty good. I'm assuming this is like a team maybe because you have open items. Is that fair, Dawn?
No, it's actually with one person.
It's only one person. Okay. Okay, good. So, others take a look at the criteria there, 1 through 4, and how would you say Dawn hits that criteria? Just write in chat. Is it very good, okay, or not very good? How would you rate Dawn's desired outcomes there? What would you say? Yeah, so Don, I would say I'm giving you some quick feedback here. It could be a little more specific. You have open items. You also have next steps with each, so you're kind of blending two together, right? Which you can do, but just conceptually, if you had to take a highlighter and underline what's the noun, the first one is clarity on the items, and the second one is next steps, right? And ultimately, next steps implies a list or an agreement of next steps.
Mhm.
All right, so very good. All right, and then number 2 there you have is items for the parking lot. Okay, so I'd want to know a little bit more on that. Is that, maybe it's a prioritized list of items that might be a little more powerful. But it's pretty good. It's pretty good. You have, once again, this is a product-based item. So on the left, it's tangible. It's a list, it's a decision, it's an agreement.
Mhm.
So overall, that's pretty good, Dawn.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
Good.
Good. Okay. One thing really nice about desired outcomes, it's a great litmus test for your meeting effectiveness because at the end of the day, you can literally go, number 1, did I do that? Number 2, did I do that? Right? The reason we use the word desired is because we're intending to get those things done. But if we don't get them done, it's no problem, right? We have another meeting or we take it offline. So that's why we say desired versus required. All right, fantastic. Let's give Dawn a round of applause. Great job, Dawn.
Thank you.
All right, is there anybody else who would be willing? We've got 5 minutes left. Particularly if you have like a really important meeting.
We didn't have, oh, I think Amanda has one. Sorry.
Brian, do you want to go?
Amanda has her hand raised. We had one that
Okay.
is for my partner that we could talk about if no one else has anything to talk about.
Okay, let's do that. Amanda.
Okay.
And you'll want to unmute Amanda. Okay, so we're going to zoom in here. So there's an upcoming meeting. So Amanda's going to have, by the end of the meeting, we'll have a finalized agenda. Okay, I like the specific of a 1 hour session. That's super helpful. I like that you have an agenda. The agenda is actually what we're going for. Now, Amanda, I'm assuming when you say finalized, you're saying like an agreed upon, or it's like completed. We're not going to do another revision.
Yes, and agreed upon.
Okay.
So this is my meeting about a meetup that's going to happen. So it's not actually the agenda. Yep.
Great, great.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, okay. Okay,
So
that's really
you're
good.
actually, so this is interesting, Amanda. So Amanda's actually having a meeting about an agenda, like it's almost like you're meeting about a meeting design, right?
Yes.
Yeah, super. Really, really good. You could say, now notice you could say an agreed, an agreed agenda. Agreed is your your adjective there, really. Okay, and then you have an agreement on the items needed. Now I don't understand what that means. Can you share a little bit more on that?
This would be the physical artifacts that you will need to actually host a session, you know, like job aids and all of those kind of posters and
Okay. So I would say I would be a little more specific and say, what are the items needed? So like, is it support items, facilitation items, logistical items? Be a little more specific on what we mean when we say items.
Nice. Okay. Cool.
Great. And then number 3, we will have roles at the meetup. Okay, so here's a good one to get in here. So when you say roles, that implies we just have people, right? I'm going to push back a little bit of that and say, are you having agreement of the roles? Or alignment of the roles, or a list of roles? I don't understand what roles mean. So what did you have in mind there, Amanda?
Mine was a list of roles, and that we could we could divvy it up amongst ourselves.
Great. So you would say by the end of our meeting, we will have a list of required roles.
Awesome.
And
Okay.
I know, and I was in some of the breakout rooms rotating around. Some people were wondering, like, where do we use the so that? If you go back to the graphic there at the top, you'll notice you only need the so that in a knowledge-based desired outcome. So the one on the right in blue that says awareness or understanding, that's the only one you need the so that. Everything else is the product side, a list, a decision, an agreement. You can just leave it at that.
Okay, so only for the knowledge kind of. Okay.
That's right. All right, so Amanda, we have maybe 3 minutes left. I'm wondering if you'd be willing to kind of continue to work through and us to build a quick agenda in 3 minutes. Are you up for that challenge?
Sure.
All right, so here's how this is going to work. On page 2, I've drafted a very simple table here. This can work for any context. First thing I want you to do, Amanda, is go up to page 1 and grab your first desired outcome, an agreed agenda, and you're going to paste that in the second row, second column. So over right there. Yep. And then on the left, you can write your topic. So your topic here is really like agenda design. Okay. I'm sorry, put that up 1 row above.
Shall I?
Oh, I see. You're doing it in row 3. That's fine. Row 2 is meant to be just an example, so you can delete row 2 in your table. That's not needed anymore.
Okay.
So one really powerful way to get in the habit of writing desired outcomes is think about your topics. Write all your topics on the left-hand side, and then think about your outcome. What do I want to achieve with this topic? What am I going to leave with? Is it a decision on funding? Is it a list? Is it an agreement? Furthermore, if it's an agreement, I would want to say, well, how are we making the decision on that, Amanda? So tell me a little bit about that. How are you getting agreement? Is this consensus? Is it a majority vote? What would you say about agreement building?
Oh, well, I'll first want them to all participate and collaborate on what goes into the agenda, and
Yes.
then I would like them to vote, let's say.
Okay, great. So you can use the process column there, and this is think of this as if you ever watch the NFL football, you notice the coaches have like this play card, and usually they're masking their mouth so people can't see what they're saying. They're doing like play-by-play conversations. So that's really your process column. This is not something you always show people on the front end of meeting design. It's more of a back end thing. So Amanda, you could just put a dash and say, you know, your first process you're going to do is just generate a list. Right?
Sure.
And then the next thing you said, I'm forgetting, but you had a suggestion there, right? I think it was voting.
Oh, yes, yes.
Okay, so you're going to vote. So you're kind of thinking through. The process column here is meant to say how, what is our approach for getting to our desired outcome? And if it's a
Nice.
really big group, I don't know how big this is, Amanda, but imagine you had like 50 people that you had to collaborate with. You might have to use crazy interactive technology, right? This is where you kind of get into that design of what the tech is or what the interaction is, and ultimately how much time do we need? Okay. By the way, every process along the way, every sub process that Amanda's putting here, generate a list and voting, each of those are sub processes. So we want to be super clear on our process directions. So for example, Amanda, as a facilitator, you might say something like, we're going to generate a list of items for the agenda. The way we're going to do that is we're going to generate in Zoom chat. We're not going to speak for 60 seconds. I want everyone to generate an item in Zoom chat or drop it into Google Docs.
Okay, so I'm just putting this as for me, as a way to something that I've got to create that needs to go into
Yes.
the meeting. Okay.
Yes, this is almost like you're getting in, like in your mind's eyes, you're thinking like, what is the interaction I'm going to use to generate the list, right? What is the tool or approach I'm going to use to vote? If it's 3 people, we might just verbally talk about it or raise our hands. But if it's 100 people, we might want to use something like Mural and vote on there, or Mentimeter, or a text-based voting, or some sort of survey offline, right? So there's all those things that you want to really get into. But overall, Amanda, great job. Let's give Amanda a round of applause. Excellent work.
Thank you.
And Amanda, how was that experience for you, just being in the fishbowl?
It was great. And I appreciated that you gave me an opportunity to respond to something so that I could get clarity.
Fantastic, fantastic. And go ahead and give Amanda some kudos along the way. If you liked something that Amanda did, feel free to share that with Amanda. All right, so I'm going to keep moving here in the interest of time. I'll just say that if you enjoyed what you saw today, if it was interesting, or you have a colleague or friend, we cover way more of this. We have a course called Essential Facilitation. This is really like a deep dive into facilitation. It goes into meeting design, it goes into a lot of things. There are 6 core competencies that we talk about. These are competencies for being an effective facilitator: planning and preparing. How do you design experiences, interactions to engage everybody? How do you guide the conversation, including in really difficult moments? How do you capture information and ideas, regardless of the size of the meeting? How do you broker understanding amongst people? And then finally, the most critical one, how do you build understanding and agreement? These are all things that we cover. It's very, very interactive. We put people through real meetings, real mock meetings, and role play and do exactly what I just showed with the 2 volunteers here around Fishbowl, because it's the most powerful way to learn. So if you're interested in any of that, definitely check out the website, interactionassociates.com. We're also, for those of you that are interested, we're looking for volunteers or people that will be willing to trial a high stakes meeting facilitation certificate. So this is where if you're facilitating very high stakes, complex meetings, if that's interesting to you, put your information in chat so Brian can get back to me. We're definitely looking for people that want to help out from a design perspective and just an interactivity perspective along the way. All right. Finally, I'm going to leave with this quote here. This is from Mary Lou Williams. She was an amazing American jazz pianist in the mid 1990s. And she says here about playing, it's not what you play, it's how you play it. So in the same way, when it comes to facilitation, it's really not about the content, although sometimes it feels like it is. It's ultimately about how you play it. It's ultimately about the process. That's really the most important thing. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop today, and just want to say thank you, everyone, for your participation, and be willing to engage in a little bit of fun interactivity along the way.
Chris, thank you so much. This was awesome. We're going to hang out for a few minutes to do Q&A. I didn't say this before. I love everything that IA puts together. They really are the foundation of my facilitation practice. Every time I facilitate in the room, in the back of my head are the IA models, from divergence, convergence to opening, refining, and closing. I mean, that's how it's done. So I'd highly, highly recommend that you take a look at what IA does and how they do things. One other resource that I want to share, just because this is Nova Scribes, is that for you visually minded folks, There is, of course, the Grove templates. This is the meeting startup, also known as the ORS chart. ORS stands for Outcome, Agenda, Roles, and Rules. And the reason that I bring this up is, of course, outcome, which we've been talking about all night, goes right there. So everything that you've just heard from Chris bolts right into our ORS charts. And I'm going to drop a link into chat where you can find out more about the ORS chart. They have some different versions of them. This is the treasure map. This is their modern version of it. It looks kind of like a boardroom, but do check that out. And with that, again, Chris, thank you very much. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.
And I'm happy to stay around for a few minutes and just answer any questions that people have. I've got about 10 minutes before I have to jump.